Yesterday, we talked about parallel and perpendicular lines and identifying if two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Today, we're going to talk about writing parallel and perpendicular equations. So what is this? Given an equation, you must create another equation that is either parallel or perpendicular to this line that is passing through a certain point. So when we're creating these lines, keep in mind the following. Parallel equations have to have the same slope. So they have to have the same slope. Perpendicular equations have to have negative reciprocals. So parallel has to have the same slope. Perpendicular has to have negative reciprocals. So let's look at a couple of examples. The first two examples wants us to write parallel equations. So for example 1, it says to write the equation of the line that passes through the point -2, 7 and is parallel to the line y equals -4x plus 1. You're going to need this equation, y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. I'm going to plug in this ordered pair into my equation. So if you want to label your x1, y1, you can. But there again, you do not have to. The reason why they give you an equation is so that you can pull the slope from it. And remember, my slope is always in front of the x when it is in y equals mx plus b. So here, it's in y equals mx plus b, so my slope is -4. So now I have everything I need. So I'm just going to plug it into my equation. I have y minus 7 equals -4 parentheses x minus -2. I had a couple people yesterday ask me, how did I know when to change it to a positive? You always change it to a positive when you have two numbers or two minus and negative symbols side by side. Because it's side by side, it becomes a positive. So really, this is x plus 2. So from here, my next step is to distribute. -4 times x is going to give me -4x. -4 times 2 is going to give me -8. Here, I have to move my 7 to the other side, and I'm left with y equals -4x minus 1. That is a parallel line that is parallel to here and here. These two lines are parallel because they have the exact same slope. And this line crosses this point. So let's look at another example. I still need the same equation. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. You can label them x1, y1. And if you want to, you can go ahead and plug them in. Y minus negative 1 equals, I'm going to find my m out in a minute, x minus 3. If you don't want to go ahead and plug them in, you don't have to. Now, if I look at the line that they give me, I notice it is not in y equals mx plus b form. So I got to change it. So the first thing I have to do is move x to the other side. So I'm going to be left with negative 3y equals negative x plus 9. Once I do that, I divide both sides by negative 3 so that my negative 3's cancel out. And I'm left with y equals positive 1/3 x minus 3, because it's a negative 1 divided by a negative 3, which gives me a positive 1/3, and a positive 9 divided by a negative 3 gives me a negative 3. So now I can pull out my slope, which in this case is a positive 1/3. That is my slope. So I'm going to put 1/3 here. I have two negatives that become a positive. So really this is y plus 1 equals, distribute the 1/3, 1/3 x times 1/3 times negative 3 is going to give me a negative 1. If you're curious how I got the negative 1, what I did was I did 1/3 times negative 3. Well, negative 3 can also be rewritten as negative 3 over 1. Multiply my top two numbers together, so 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. 3 times 1 is 3, and that can simplify. Negative 3 over 3 is equal to negative 1. So from here, all I have to do now is subtract the 1, and I'm left with y equals 1/3 x minus 2. So that is how you write parallel equations. Perpendicular equations, you write the equation of the line that passes through the point 4, 3 and is perpendicular to the line y equals 2x minus 4. Here again, you still need this equation. Y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. The only difference is when you pull out the slope, you have to make it negative reciprocal. So if this slope is 2, the negative reciprocal is, you change the sign and flip the fraction. So my new slope now is negative 1/2. Plug your point in, y minus 3 equals negative 1/2 x minus 4. And then everything from here is the same. Distribute the negative 1/2. And I'll get negative 1/2 x plus, here again, it's another fraction. If you want to do negative 1/2 times 4 over 1, it's negative 4. Oh, I'm sorry, that's negative 4 too. Negative 1 times negative 4 gives me a positive 4. 2 times 1 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So 2 goes there. From here, add 3 to both sides, and you'll get y equals negative 1/2 x plus 5. So it's really almost the exact same, except I'll have to change my slope to negative reciprocal. So if you look at problem 2, there again, my formula is not in y equals mx plus b. It's in standard form. So I'm going to change it to make it look like y equals mx plus b. First thing I have to do is subtract the 5x to both sides. And I'm going to be left with 3y equals negative 5x minus 21. Divide by 3. And I get y equals negative 5/3 x minus 7. So if my slope here is negative 5/3, the negative reciprocal is change the sign so it now becomes positive. Flip the fraction, so now it's 3/5. So my slope that I'm going to use is 3/5. Plug it into your formula. Two negatives become a positive. Distribute the 3/5. Y minus 1 equals 3/5 x plus, here again, you have another fraction, 3 divided by 5 times 5 over 1. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 1 is 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Add 1 to the other side, and you get y equals 3/5 x plus 4. This and this is your answers. So if you look at the back of your page, these are some problems I want you to try to do on your own. If you have questions, please let me know. It's 8 problems, and when you get done, I want to see your paper. And if you have any other questions, please come back and see me.